Hey, everybody, welcome to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT. As you can hear us on radio stations and all the podcast platforms around the country, and also glad to be part of the Golf News Network on iHeart. Big question is always, how's your game? Today, we're going to be talking with Dean Snell, CEO and founder of Snell Golf. But first, we want to say thanks to our folks and supporters at Painted Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended, and also the Oregon Crab Commission from sea to plate. And like I said, Gene Snell is with us today. If you pay any attention to golf, you know that there's always something going on in the technologies, the golf balls, the clubs, it never ends. It just never ends. And Gene's always a guy that we can go to get the right answer. So welcome back.
Oh, nice to be back. It's been a challenging couple of years to say the least.
Yeah, it has. Before we talk about some of the new stuff you're working on, has it been a really hard bounce back from the COVID era?
It is, COVID did two things. It really boosted golf quite a bit. So the demand went pretty much through the roof with respect to golf and products. But the supply had two major issues that happened, and one of them was a material shortage that affected everybody, and the other one was the supply, just to get things made and get them delivered. So as the demand was increasing, the supply was decreasing drastically. So it created a pretty big issue. And us being a smaller direct-to-consumer company, we weren't really first when the material came back. So we had to wait a little bit, and we had to go out and work with some new factories and create our own new material. And it was a learning process for the last year and a half. But all hard work pays off, and we're back. So it's in a good position today, then better than we were a couple of years ago.
Well, that's good. I know that a couple other people I talked to, club manufacturers, even the clothing people, they suffered from kind of the same thing. They COVID came over the winter of 2020, and people, manufacturers and companies like yourself had stuff in the pipeline. Their new products were ready to come out, whatever it was, and all of a sudden things kind of stopped.
Yeah, it hit the big thing on the golf ball side was the one of the raw materials that go into the swirl and our ionomers, which are in pretty much every golf ball. That supply pretty much shut off. So making the ionomers in the different grades that we all use became a challenge for some of those manufacturers to get the material to us. Which then again affected supply and affected manufacturing and production, and then the shipment side to it. What used to take about 4 weeks to get here overseas took 4 to 6 months.
Oh,
And then it was about 9 times the cost to get it here, and significantly longer times. So created some pretty severe challenges. We had to allocate some of our existing products just to keep some customers having product for a little bit longer time. But we really almost had to almost start over with some factories and getting them going and starting back up and creating our own material supply that would allow us to, step away from some of the hurdles that we had.
why was the basic products, the as you call them, how do you say that, ionomers?
Yeah,
Uh,
the ion.
why did that go from plentiful to very little? You know?
Well, yeah, there was one of the main, it's a petrochemical, petroleum based type of material that goes into the ionomer to make it. That became short. You remember we had well, not a political situation, not a political conversation for us here, but
Sure.
there was a lot of issues with oil and gas prices. There was also an issue with one of the factories to make it, where they had a power outage out in Texas, where they lost one of the reactors to make it. So, and that makes a huge amount of production for the golf industry. So the supply of the raw material and then the production of the reactor to make the material came at the same time. So it created a pretty good problem for the whole golf industry. And it wasn't just Snell Golf. This affected all the major brands as well. They had to try to use the material. They had a bigger inventory base in-house, but they eventually were going to run out. So we had to work with pretty much everybody had to work to try to just allocate what was going to be made and how much people could buy as the business was growing, and as the golf was growing as a whole. So it became a pretty big challenge.
I know, Dean, my nephew is a buyer for one of the huge retailers across the country, Kroger, actually. And they own stores like out here. They're Fred Meyer stores, which are not just food, they're clothing, appliances, what have you. And he was telling me, I think late last fall, I hadn't seen him for a while. We were talking about this, and he said, when that's happened, it cost like 5 times more to get a shipping container from Asia, for example, because a lot of clothing is made in Asia, as you know. And he said, where we used to get a container for like $5,000 on a ship to get here, all of a sudden they wanted $20,000 to $25,000 for that same container. And
Yes.
was that just because they could?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a couple reasons. Remember back then, the containers were coming to the United States, but they weren't getting into the United States. They
Yeah.
were sitting out on the water for months, with these poor people on these boats that were bringing the cargo carriers that were bringing the containers over. They were stuck out on the water for months and months. And then COVID was there, so when they got home, they had to quarantine for a couple of weeks. So they just stayed on the boats and they turn around and go back. So because those cargo boats would come over but didn't go back, there became a shortage. Became a shortage on the demand, and now the biggest shortage comes around Christmas time. So the WalMarts, Kmart's, Targets of the world, they kind of went out and put a premium price on containers and secured them for themselves. And you're right. For us, it was about $3,000 or $4,000. It went to $27,000.
Oh,
And in 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get here, went to 4 to 6 months. So we even looked at air shipping some stuff in, which went up about 9 times the cost as well, to ship a few dozen golf balls in a pallet. So it was a big issue. It was supply and demand as well for the cargo boats and the containers as well, because most of them were over here in the U.S. and weren't making it back.
yeah. I remember those stories like in Southern California and Long Beach.
Yes.
Huge port down there if you've never been there, folks. But I remember seeing the videos of dozens of cargo ships sitting out, and because they couldn't get in, like that. And we have obviously where I live in Oregon, the Columbia River, Astoria and Portland are huge ports. Seattle up there by Tacoma is a huge port, and all these boats were sitting up and down the West Coast. And some of the people uh tried to get the boats to go around to the east side of the country, come into Miami or Houston or wherever they could. And that was kind of cost prohibitive too. So it was a kind of a big mess.
Yeah, it was. It was a huge mess, but it's gotten better. It's not back to what it was.
Yeah.
The cost has come down, significantly for the containers. The lead time to get them is also been reduced, but it's not back to what it was before. There's still an increase in time and in price to get golf balls brought over.
But you couldn't really overly reflect that in your pricing, could you?
We didn't, no. So we kind of ate the margins on it to try to keep in. For us, it was a little challenge because we weren't getting a lot of supply, so we were getting hit by a couple different ways, which is where my past has been a hockey player, and I was looking for somebody's shirt to pull over their head and throw some uppercuts, So frustrating time, but I was ready to take some teeth out. But you gotta deal with it.
Yeah.
Those happen, and we actually moved on and spent a year working with a couple factories, and then had issues with one of the factories where it created a problem with us. So the last 9 months has been dedicated towards our own material development, our own process development, our own quality control development, to get over the hurdles that we've had, the last couple of years, and specifically last year with some of the product. I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't happy with the durability, and I found out there were some reasons why coming at the factory. So, I stopped it. I stopped production and said we're gonna start from scratch, and we're gonna do our own thing, and we're gonna work our own factory, and we're gonna work our own quality control and processing. And we just launched in April, end of April this year, with 3 new products that are significantly better than we had last year, and fix the issues that we had last year. So now the supply is there, the durability and quality is there, and the performance is very good.
Excellent. We're going to take a break here on Grilling at the Green. We're going to be back, talk more with Dean Snell, CEO of Snell Golf, right after this. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. Today we are talking with Dean Snell. Dean's been on the show quite a few times over the years, and I always find our conversations very interesting and informative because a lot of people don't get into the minutia of making golf balls and what it is. There's lots of ink spread in the magazines about it, and all these really nice diagrams of a golf ball cut apart and arrows pointing to, the exterior, the interior, and that. But Dean always explains it so it makes sense to me. I don't know about the listeners, but it makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. But Dean, this is something new on the show here. This is where we ask all of our guests for a travel tip. Now, I know you travel quite a bit with your company and do stuff. And any type of tip you can give our listeners, I'll give you an example. Some people say, don't take the last flight if you're going to go play golf. Take the next to the last flight. So if your clubs have a chance to, if they miss the original flight, they got a chance to show up. Things like that. What's been your experience?
Well, if you're going somewhere that's a little cold, I would recommend you, and you're going to play when you land. I would recommend you keep the golf balls in your carry-on luggage when they go underneath the plane and fly. And I know some people take some trips over to Scotland or Ireland or something in April, in March and April, when it's not really that warm out. But you're leaving them underneath the plane for quite a few hours. You're at least take a couple of them in your travel bag, so you have something that's more temperature controlled inside the cabin than versus underneath. The other tip that I would give people is I've seen so many times lately where the heads of the drivers are getting snapped off when they travel in the golf bags underneath. So you got a wrench if you want. Take the head of your driver off your shaft, off the shaft, and put it inside your bag, and then put it back together when you get there. I've had 3 or 4 friends that have had clubs destroyed, the longer clubs destroyed on some of the travel bags that may not be, built as strong as some of the other ones.
Yeah. No, that's a good tip. That's a good tip. And we want to thank the folks at Weston Kia here in the Northwest, #1 Kia dealer, not only in Portland, but in the Northwest, in Gresham, Oregon. We thank them for that. So I want to talk about your new lineup of balls. You've got the Primes 1, 2, 3 there. I got a notice this morning that Jason has sent me some. I haven't seen them yet. I mean, they're just being shipped now. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so what we did is there's a lot of information out there that everybody's getting confused with respect to swing speed. And the general consensus has been, if your swing speed is really slow, you should play a soft 2-piece golf ball. If it's really high, you should play a tour golf ball. And I don't agree with that. I believe that the performance of golf balls from 100 yards and in are where you score your best rounds and where you get better. So off the driver, I think they're very similar, but around the green, they're very different. So what I wanted to do was create a set of golf balls that would address a bigger group of people, not just the better players, but even the beginners, the seniors,
Right.
ladies, some people that might not hit it as firm, as hard, and give them the urethane technology that's out there with the tour balls. So we created it's Prime 2.0, Prime 3.0, and Prime 4.0. And very easy. 2.0 is a 2-piece golf ball, 3.0 is a 3-piece ball, and 4.0 is a 4-piece ball. And I created performance that kind of fits the kind of player that should play each one of these balls. So slower swing speed players that hit 7 irons, maybe 120 yards or less. It's easier for people to understand how far they hit their 7 irons versus what is my swing speed. Nobody knows your swing speed, but everybody should know how far they hit a 7 or 8 iron.
Right.
So if we can give you a golf ball that's going to perform on the short game to help you add spin, maybe stop the ball a little closer to the hole, maybe eliminate one or two three putts. The technology that's built into the 3 layers and the 4 layers, you're not really activating or using them like you need to. So don't pay for them, so we can give you the urethane cover, the urethane durability, the urethane short game spin. If you hit your 7 irons somewhere around 120 yards or less. And now when you add a layer on the inside, the Prime 3.0 puts a mantle layer in there that now starts to give performance for players that hit 7 irons, 125 to 150 yards or so. That also gives performance with the 7, 8 irons, 6 irons. And then the 4.0 is made for the players that are the faster kind of ball speed. So it's a layer inside that adds some speed when they really hit the ball harder. Cores typically slow the ball down. So we put speed in for the faster players where they're going to need it, and still giving them the urethane short game spin and control. So the level of performance is built into the type of golfer that you are, knowing how far you hit a 7 or 8 iron and not having to worry about your driver speed or your swing speed.
When you created these, were these part of, you said in the first segment, you kind of stopped everything and started over? Was the primes, did they come out of that process?
Yeah. These are all 3 new products for us. They're a new cover material that we developed, ourselves, a cross-linked urethane that gives the durability improvements over the model we had last year. Last year, I wasn't happy with the durability of some of the covers that I was getting from some manufacturers. So I shut the POs down and I shut them down and I said, we're going to fix it. So, my fault. We had a product that I didn't think was good, so I stopped it and I fixed it. So this year, all the new covers are all new. The paint system is new. The 4-layer golf ball is new. So it's performance basically for all golfers and designed for, the cost and the performance based on how you are as a player.
That's kind of like what Ben Hogan did years ago when he got those 1,000 clubs or 10,000 clubs, whatever it was. He didn't like them. He broke them and threw them in the garbage. That story, So
Yeah.
you did the same thing there. Yeah. Are you still like the mad scientist, Dean, back there creating in your own lab the urethane covers and stuff?
Yeah, I've been called worse.
I don't mean to be offensive.
No, yeah, I still do all the R&D. So we use the factories. We use some labs that we do. We do some independent test labs that we do, and we do iterations. So the products that we just launched now went through about 5 or 6 iterations of cover design, paint design, the colors of the golf balls that we want. People ask them to be a little bit not look so dull and dirty, but maybe a little bit more visible to be able to be seen. So we, the little details like that, we continue to work. We had some problems with putting logos on golf balls last year, and we fixed that as well. So yeah, it was a heavily research and development type year that we had last year, to create the new products that we're pretty excited about this year.
Oh, good. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Dean Snell, CEO and founder of Snell Golf, right after this. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT. We want to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, Beef Way Nature Intended. Also, Birdie Ball, John Breaker. John, get well out there. You crashed on your bicycle and broke your hip and did some other stuff, but I communicated with him yesterday. He seems to be doing great. So good for him. And anyway, yeah, the Birdie Ball folks like that. We're talking with Dean Snell, like I said, CEO and founder of Snell Golf there. Let's talk about the ball rollback. I look, I'm you can call me old and stodgy, I guess. I don't think that the whole industry should be predicated on, the 1,000 guys that have tour cards on the multiple tours and ladies like that. And so this rollback stuff all the time. I mean, if they came to Fat Boy Tracy here and said, "What do you think?" I'd say, "I need all the yardage I can get," but they tend to get a bone stuck in their craw at times. And I'm talking about the powers that be, the RNA, the USGA, and all that. Good folks. I know that they have good intentions, but I think they made a mountain out of a molehill here. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Dean.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate enough to be in golf for, I guess, 35 years now. 30 out of those 35, the golf ball going too far or too fast has been a discussion. And there's a lot of factors that are going into some of these distances that are happening today out on tour with the elite players. And I don't think there's any question that these guys hit the ball so far today, and there's some concern on some of the old courses where the distance is creating a problem for them. But with respect to the game of golf is in a good spot. It was growing and getting better. And when you watch these guys on tour on the weekend, having birdies and challenging each other and maybe trying to drive green, a risk reward kind of thing, it's kind of interesting, and you want to see it. The USGA set up the course last week. The course itself sets up difficult. They've set it up in the past with some heavy rough and the players chipping out sideways. And one time a year, I think that's fun to watch. Just really get a feel for how tough the game is when it's played that way. But they would get hurt if it was played that way all the time.
Right.
So I think the distance issue to me is four factors in it. It's the golf ball is one of them, the driver is one of them, the players, and the agronomy. And it's funny that the golf ball gets targeted for the issue when, to me, there's a very simple solution that I've proposed multiple times, and I've done a lot of testing on this. And well, there's two solutions. One is when the tour goes out there, they hit fairways that roll 60, 70 yards sometimes. We don't see that at our course. Our golf balls, a lot of times you can see the pitch mark where it landed when you go out for your drive because they water it quite a bit. And I heard the USGA say, well, it would cost too much money to water courses, but you only got to do that the 1 week they're there, and soften it up. I studied this years ago in the Tour Championship, and it had rained when they used to play at La Costa. And I studied the top 10 guys 1 year to the next year, same 10, and it was about a 25 or 27-yard difference in distance just because it had rained that week. So you want to roll the ball back 10 yards or 12 yards or 15 yards when they're hitting it 370 with 70 yards of roll. You're not really solving any problem with that situation. And the rest of us playing golf now have to deal with it. Minor impact on most golfers, but there is an impact, and sometimes perception is bigger than reality. So I proposed a solution to this where you don't have to change the driver, you don't have to change the ball. If you really want to control the elite tour players in tour events, give them a maximum tee height, about a half inch or 3/4 of an inch. That's all. And now they don't hit the ball high on the face over the tops of trees. They hit it in the middle or bottom. It adds about 500 RPMs of spin and takes about 15 to 20 yards off the drive. So you solve the distance problem with the driver by changing the tee only, and nobody else has to change anything. You add spin to a driver on the new proposal, to the ball on the new proposal with the driver. You're adding spin with irons, and now you're creating more problems with wind and hooks and slices and things like that. So the game is growing. It's in a good spot. Let it grow. If you're concerned about these elite tour players, have them have a max tee height, which will reduce yardage significantly. And then we play the rest of the time. We don't have to deal with any of it.
Yeah, I get the feeling that it's kind of like the hair on fire scenario. You get a few people running in a circle, and they again, I think they all in their own minds have the best for the game of golf and golfers, but to hold the rest of us to that standard, like you were saying, of the elite players that we see on Saturday and Sunday on the television, that's a little, I don't know, that's a little sci-fi cinema there, as far as I'm concerned.
It is, and I don't think the proposal that's in place today, to me, doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
I saw I think Bryson hit every drive over 300 and something yards this weekend that he played. So if you take his 360-yard drive and you say we need to make the ball be 10 yards shorter, he's now 350. You know, that's not solving any problem. And you're pushing the other guys back 10 to 15 yards. So he's still hitting wedges and 8-irons, and that they're now hitting 6s and 5-irons. So I think it creates another gap. And I know bifurcation was a big discussion, but the tour would never do that because there's too much money there. You know, so no one's going to want to make the golf balls for the tour because they're not going to want to sell them, and the tour players aren't going to get paid to play them, so they lose the money. So this end result became a study of a lot of information and a lot of people spoken to, you know, but you know, the driver is the issue. It's not the ball. The discussion has been I'm sorry, the driver distance is the issue. Not specifically the ball, the driver speeds, the player's flexibility. You know, you got some guys. When I first started in golf, Tourbillon was the golf ball choice, and the ball speed hasn't changed. It's the exact same speed today as the one golf balls were. What's changed is the spin rate has become lower, but the players now 160-mile-an-hour ball speed when I started is now 185 or 190. Well, that's with the ball that doesn't go any faster today by design. But the players are able to do that. And now let's take the ball now and make it 10 yards shorter, and we're going to solve the problem. I just don't see it happening. And that perception to the general golfer that buys the golf balls now believes that they got golf balls that are 10 to 12 yards shorter for them as well. May not be the case, but you put that in their minds, and all the guys I play with, a lot of them don't play the back tees. They're looking to move up. So I think the solution to the tour problem, there's an easier way to do it than the solution to a golf problem.
I like your suggestion of water. Water to me is the water and tee height are the simplest solutions there.
They sure are, and it works. I mean, when there was a tournament that was played a couple weeks ago, and I forgot which one it was, but it rained, and you know, and the distances were significantly different. You know, in Phoenix, the golf balls roll forever. In Hawaii, they roll forever. So, you know, you get on those courses and make it about 10 yards shorter on a controlled test that they do at the USGA doesn't solve that problem. You know, so if you water the fairways during the week they're there, or the week before and the week they're there, or you shape them and you grow the rough a little thicker, you know, down in the 330-yard area, make them kind of work on control a little bit better, and then cut it on Monday when the rest of us have to play, and it's good to go.
Yeah, I know that, and we've all seen it, but at my home course here, couple of years ago, I was out there playing, and it was August, late in the afternoon, and I hit a drive, and I'm not a big hitter. I mean, they get over 200, you know, 225 like that, but I'm not a big hitter. That thing rolled out to just under 300 because we were playing with some high school kids, and these kids can lace it, and they were going, "Wow, you know," I said, "But the roll, it probably rolled 50 yards." You know,
Yeah,
because
it's a
it
big
was,
impact on it.
yeah, it's a huge impact on that. I don't know. I just I like your suggestions a lot of just a little water and maybe a shorter tee. But like I said, my opinion is it's a hair on fire deal. There's been a few guys at the top, like Jack and those guys that are always he's been harping about this for years, and he's got his own reasons, and I respect that.
Yeah,
But
he does.
but you,
His mind, though, I mean, his information that he has for the conclusion that he draws is just not accurate. You know, he's been saying for a long time that we got to make the ball slower. They go too fast today. You know, they don't go any faster. Wound golf balls used to be made to the limit. The cover would above the limit, and the cover would be put on bottom, and it would be just below the velocity limit of 255 feet per second. That's exactly what they are today. They still can't go faster than 255 feet per second in the test. So the balls aren't any faster today than what they used to be. We haven't made them be fast to go further. What's happened in the ball is that the driver spin rate has been reduced significantly, like pinnacles were back in the 1990s.
Yeah.
So the players now hit it higher. The drivers have gotten longer. The sweet spots are like toaster ovens. They swing over corners. They don't fade around the corner. And then I had a lot of people tell me, well, the balls don't spin today. I can't hit hooks and slices like I used to. Well, come play with me on Saturday, because the guys I play with can certainly hit some bad hooks and slices.
Yeah, we're going to take a break and we're going to be back with Dean Snell, a very wise man we're talking to today. Anyway, Dean and I will be back right after this. Please stay with us. Yeah, come play with my group.
Yeah,
it looks like a fireworks display.
exactly. Yeah, we spend more time looking for balls than anything else.
Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Hey, welcome back to Grilling at the Green. We're talking with Dean Snell, CEO and founder of Snell Golf today. I want to thank also the folks at Hammerstall Knives and Heritage Cookware. And you say, why is that in the golf show? Well, we're converting this show. It'll still be the radio and podcast version, but also to a television show. Been working on it for a while, and some of the first episodes will come out here in a couple of months. And the folks at Hammerstall and Heritage Cookware were nice enough to support us in that effort. So there you go. Um, each of them have their respective websites, so check them out. Good stuff. Like I said, we're talking with Dean Snell, CEO and founder of Snell Golf. It's always a pleasure to talk to Dean because he knoweth of what he speaketh. How's that? A little Shakespeare for you there this morning, Dean.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You were talking about the U.S. Open, which just happened last weekend, and I think you're right. I think you're right when you say it's fun to watch once or twice a year, maybe with the U.S. Open and the Open in over across the pond, to see them have to, hit out of some 3 feet tall fescue or what they call that stuff last week, wiregrass or something like that, and
Mhm.
and all that. Most of the people I play with, they would just use a foot wedge and kick it back out in the fairway, and they wouldn't try to hurt themselves doing that. Do you think though that we get a bad perception, and not a bad perception, but a wrong impression and perception because the way these courses are set up on the regular tour stops for both men and women, they're so manicured, so green. We don't get to play those very often. We got the average ones, and the courses are well taken care of. But if you've played like I have, and I'm sure you have after a tournament, the course plays a lot different.
Yeah, yeah, it is. They're spoiled. There's no question. They don't play municipal golf courses where if you miss the green, you're in a hole.
Yeah.
Or the ball. Or there is no grass on part of the fairway. Or it's all burnt out. It generally they don't play that way. Some U.S. Open venues are set up that way. Obviously, the Open Championship is a lot of tight grass that's been matted down or burnt out a little bit for a little more of a challenge with some roll. But in generally, the courses they play are very, very nice. They're challenging because they can get out of the rough, or they're challenging by how fast they make the greens or the pin placements that they put on and where they sit. I was always amazed. I spent some time at the Masters one year, and I followed one of the top groups, and I walked 18 holes with them. And I thought one of the things I thought was the coolest thing was how they take the little discs that are the size of a hole, and when they get up around the green, the 3 or 4 guys playing in the group, they put the discs at where the 4 hole locations will be during the week, and then you just watch them around the greens and the shots they have to hit. And us as amateurs, we would not survive. So they step up and show their true skill and ability to be able to pinch one off of a tight lie and make it check and stop, which nobody an amateur golfer can really do that. But working the way they do the contours and understanding, it's impressive to watch, and that shows how good they are. I
Yeah.
just don't believe they need the fairways to be 70, 80 yards of roll, and then go say there's a problem with the courses being obsolete. There's no question that some of these guys today hit the ball significantly longer. 1 mile an hour at their speed is about 2.5 yards of distance. So when the tour average used to be 160 and now it's say 180, that's 20 miles an hour. You're talking about 50, 50 yards of distance. That's just by the ball speed that the players are producing with golf balls that don't go any faster. Now, when you add the roll into these fairways, you're starting to get up into the 70, 80, 90 yards of extra distance
Yeah.
between ball speed and roll, and it does create a problem on some courses.
Well, if you're mere mortals like us,
Mm.
I couldn't even take my deer rifle and make it go that far some days, I'm sure. But and if you get a chance, folks, if you can play a course right after a professional tournament has been there, it is fun. It's more challenging, and especially like we saw on a couple of those greens last weekend, trying to keep the ball on the green. They've got them set up and shaved on the side. So you've got an area, maybe, what would you say, Dean? 15, 20 square feet, if at the max, that if you get it in there, you're going to be okay. If you get it anywhere but there, it's going to roll off and you can't
Yeah.
stop it. You just can't stop it.
Yeah, I can remember watching this weekend. I think it was Tony Finau and then someone else. I think maybe 15th hole. It was Oberg, however you pronounce his name. And the two of them were in the exact same spot, and they went up over the flag into the trap, out of the trap, back down to where they were, back up to the top, missed the putt. They made sevens, and they were going back and forth like a 30 handicap on a public course, just going back and forth past the hole. That shows how good the other guys played that hole, where they had to hit it in a certain spot with a 20 to 25 square foot area to land it and keep it and then make the putt. So they're outstanding. I've spent a lot of time on tour and a lot of time with tour players, and they are outstanding around the green. It was one of my favorite things to do when I was designing golf balls for the tour guys, was to go to their homes and see them in their element at their home course. And we would go 30 yards, 20 yards, 15 yards and spend hours and just watching them hit all the types of shots and what they can do to a ball. It's amazing how good they are, and they're all that good. So you notice a lot of these events come down to who makes the most putts at the end, because they're all very, very good players.
Absolutely. We're going to get out of here. I want to thank Dean. You can snellgolf.com, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
snellgolf.com. Direct to
Yep.
consumer. We ship straight to your house. You get them in 2 days.
There you go. Dean is going to stick around for after hours, but we got to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank all of our sponsors this week. Go out, play some golf, have some fun, and most importantly, be kind if you can. Hey, everybody, welcome to Grilling at the Green here on iHeart and Golf News Network and all the different platforms we're on, and a number of radio stations here in Portland and Seattle and Texas and Pennsylvania and a couple other places that can't remember right off the top of my head. I guess that's the problem as you get over the age of 55, Dean. All of a sudden, the memories come in one ear and out the other. Like this, we're talking with Dean Snell today from Snell Golf. By the way, go to snellgolf.com and check out their new Prime golf balls. You, like Dean said, there's what 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0.
Correct.
And give yourself your best analysis to pick out what number you want and you think you could play with, and give them a shot. I've played Snell golf balls a lot, and I always enjoy them. And I've actually gotten some people, I've converted them up here, Dean, over the years.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Couple of fun questions here. I don't know if we got to these last time you were on the show. I don't think so, but I wanted to run these by you. If you could play a round of golf with one of your golfing heroes, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's tough now because my father was a very, very good golfer in his time. He's passed away, but but he was a scratch golfer, and I hated golf. I was a hockey player, and I didn't like the sport at all. And he always would try to tell me how good Jack Nicklaus was, and I grew up working directly with Tiger, on one-on-one basis when he turned pro, when I was a Titleist, and I know how good he is. So I mean, I would love to, in a fantasy world, be able to play with Jack and Tiger, at the same time, and then I think maybe I'd put Jennifer Lopez in there just to kind of just to kind of make the foursome look a little better.
There you go. There you go. So Dean, if you were declared supreme leader of golf for one day, just one day, what would you as supreme leader decree? And they had to act on it.
Go to snellgolf.com and buy a dozen golf balls.
There you go. There you
Try
go.
them out. Honestly, I would like to see a few, and not many, but one of my big pet peeves in golf is how complicated the rules are. And you want to grow the game and you want younger kids to be in it because they're going to be the future. And it's a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge to understand all the rules. I play in a lot of tournaments, and every single tournament there's some kind of controversy or rule. Nobody knows it. Call the pro, hit two balls. We don't know. And so simplify the rules. And the biggest rule I would change is if you hit something in a divot in your own fairway, you get a drop. That's ground under repair, in my opinion. You get it in other places on the course that's not even in the fairway if it's ground under repair. And when someone takes a chunk out of your own fairway and your ball lands in it, to me, you should be afforded a drop. And the argument has always been, well, people would take drops all the time saying they're in one. So if they do, they do. They're in their own fairway. If golf is a game of, you call yourself, you call your rules on yourself, and it's a judgment call on your own rules. So if you're going to be that type of guy that wants to do it all the time, you're the type of guy that moves your ball in the rough anyway. So
Right.
Make it easier for people to understand. And then if you're in your own fairway and you're in a divot that you see that's happened, or sand divot, you get a free drop.
That's interesting that you say that. I would say out of the last 20 people I've interviewed, Dean, 15 of them had said that. From
Yeah.
television commentators to you as a manufacturer to amateur players to pro players, whatever. They always say you got to get that divot thing taken care of because it really messes with a lot of people.
Yeah, it does. The game is hard enough as it is, and when you do hit something nice and you do hit a good ball in your own fairway, because the guy in front of you didn't, even if it's a fresh one and they put the grass back on it, that's not the same shot, and
No.
it's not designed to make it. It's not designed to be a penalty when you're on fairway, but when you're in a sand divot, that to me that's under repair, and you should get to drop the ball.
No, I agree. I agree. Um, you spent a lot of time at pro tournaments, because like you said, you spent time working with Tiger and other top tour players. When you were at a pro tournament, what was the dumbest thing you ever think you saw a pro do? You don't have to name them. That's up to you. But what's the dumbest thing you ever think you saw a pro do while playing in a tournament?
Well, I saw a pro get removed from his practice round uh, for inappropriate jokes, and then he would, every time his playing partner that he was playing with would put his ball on the tee, he'd walk up and he'd whack it somewhere else, and the guy didn't have any golf balls left. So he'd fire it into the crowd, and the crowd would keep the ball. So this guy that he was playing with on the fifth or sixth hole didn't have any balls left to play again.
Oh,
So
geez.
he kind of knocked him out of the thing by knocking all the golf balls away from him. But I think that's that's just kind of a fun thing. They were having fun, and eventually someone from the PGA Tour came up and escorted him out, which I think he kind of doesn't. He feels bad about that. I have to imagine, but it was a pretty stupid move he was making.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't take much to figure out who that might be, but
No, 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 no.
there might have been a few adult beverages involved in it as well, and things like that.
Yeah, just that could happen. That could happen.
Yep.
Um, if you could dine, Dean, with a historical figure, who would it be and what would be on the menu?
I'm a hockey guy, so and I'm a steak and lobster guy. So you give me like a really nice steakhouse and maybe with a lobster tail is what I would eat. But I would love to sit down and sit down at a dinner with you know Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, and I haven't really given a whole lot of thought now. Maybe even maybe a Tiger or somebody, at that kind of level, that how influential he was. Because to me, those are the guys that maybe even Bobby Orr. I did get a chance to beat Bobby Orr this past year, so maybe Bobby Orr, Gretzky, and Michael Jordan. And I would love to hear the perspective that those guys had on the sport when they played versus the sport that it is today. Understanding the challenges that they faced versus the challenges are different today that the tour faces. But it would be kind of cool to hear from who I consider to be probably the best of their time in their sport. And I'd like it to be the guys from the past, not the guys from the present.
I've covered and played in some pro-ams. And you get some of these older football players, basketball players, whatever. And they'll once they're always usually really nice and stuff, but you get kind of to know them through the round and they kind of get loosened up and they start telling you those stories about, maybe who the dirtiest player was or who a guy they could never get by or which guy's wife ran off with their coach or whatever.
Yeah,
And it's stuff you never hear in the media, and those are always the really fun parts, the,
yeah,
the really, really fun parts.
they
Um,
are. Yeah, and the information they give you is always it's just and I've done the same as you have, Jeff. I got a chance to play in quite a few pro-ams and spent time at homes for the PJ players, which I would go out and play some tournaments with them. And it's genuine, when they're in their own element at their own course with their shorts on, not the pants, just kind of enjoying themselves while you're out there testing with them. They open up, and they're human beings, and they got a lot of anecdotal stories and some cool things that have happened to them. Some challenges they faced. Those are the kind of questions that you like to ask because everything's not always as it seems on the outside.
yes.
With professional athletes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They live in a big bubble. And, sometimes, especially when they're kind of at the end of their career or they've been out of it for a while and they're a little more comfortable talking about stuff and, whatever it is, it's always fun, always interesting. Um, if we put your skills to music, Dean, what would the music be? Are you going to say Jennifer Lopez again or what?
If you put my skills to music into something, it'd be terrible. I'm an awful dancer. I'm an awful singer. you know, uh, and musically inclined. I can't really play any instruments either. So if you can't play an instrument and you can't sing, I don't know what kind of music that would be. Probably be a new category of absolutely terrible. I wouldn't sell any albums. But I actually like the old time rock, the Led Zeppelin,
Yes.
Rolling Stones, Aerosmith kind of bands. I mean, those were when I grew up. Who I listened to a lot, and my wife is country. She likes country, so she's kind of got me into that a little bit. To listen to it, I couldn't tell you half the people, or probably a third of the people that are actually when we watch the awards on TV. I say, "Who's that?"
Yeah.
And I don't know who they are, but I've heard the songs, and it's time to change a little bit. But good old fashioned Led Zeppelin was always my favorite.
When I started my radio career in college in Los Angeles, I was the morning show guy for about a year and a half there. And I always, my lineup in the mornings, of course, I started at 6, and most college kids were not out of bed at 6, right? Some of them are just coming home
Just,
and getting to bed,
yeah, exactly. Just going to bed.
Yeah, but I would start with Zeppelin, uh, Ozzy, Jimmy Buffett, some Stones, and Bob Seger.
Yeah,
Okay.
there
And
you
Bob
go.
Seger was just really gaining national notoriety. He'd been known very well in the Midwest,
Yep.
but his live album and that kind of stuff was just coming out, so it was just really picking up there. But that's I kind of rotated all that through in the morning. There's nothing like a little Black Dog from Led Zeppelin to get you started. Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember junior high school where Stairway to Heaven, we'd all wait for it to come on because it was about 8 minutes and you could finally dance with the one girl you wanted to for 8 minutes
Yep.
when you're in junior high. So everybody waited for that one song and then it was a beeline to the prettiest girl standing there.
Oh, absolutely. That one and what was it? Crimson and Clover. That
Yeah.
song,
Yeah.
and that song went on forever. Kind of like, Fog Hat Slow Ride. When you when you put Fog, you always put Slow Ride on um right before you kind of went to the top of the hour and stuff. And an FM radio in those days, we didn't have hard breaks and that kind of thing. But you could do that because you could always get out and go to the restroom. You had time to get out of the studio and run down the hall to the restroom with Slow Ride or one of
Yeah.
those because they were, 144 minutes long, and then you could come back and do that. Anyway, um, yeah, it's changed a lot. Um, do you get a chance to play much golf, Dean?
I do now. I don't travel as much as I used to. We have a second home down in Port St. Lucie, and I have an office down there, so I can work here in Massachusetts or down in Florida during the winter time. So I've tried to go down there a little bit more. Over the years, it's gotten a little bit better, but I have 6 kids and 6 grandkids, so they keep us busy, and we're back and forth, baseball games or gymnastics or whatever the case may be. But I try to play golf well, once or twice a week minimum, during the year, and then I play in some tournaments. So we have a group of guys that play a lot of times on Friday afternoons. I'll try to play Friday afternoon, and then if there's a couple of tournaments here and there on the weekends or something like that, I'll play in those as well.
We were talking a few minutes ago, and you were talking about, kids are the up and coming thing and that, and of course the talk is always growing the game. I'm going to interject this. I think that's true, and that's very true. But I think we also, since COVID, are overlooking a group of people, and that is the 35 plus folks that either came back to the game or picked up the game because of COVID, working at home, etc., like that.
So
Um,
true.
and they're the ones that basically have the money, they have the homes, they have the cars, what have you. They can afford to play, or most of them can, but we don't do much for those folks. I want to get
Yeah.
your take on that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. They've stepped in to come. Some of them almost just even joined the game at 30 something years old because of it. But a lot of them did come back. I'll give you a quick example. The course that I belong to here in Massachusetts, we had 120 members before COVID, and we have 425 now. And the biggest category that was added, which I was on the board at the time, we gave that group by age a price difference,
Mm-hmm.
so they would have an opportunity. They're not as established. Some of them are just getting, you're
Yeah.
starting families or jobs. So we gave them it was a 3-year program that we did with them to try to say, hey, you come up with a 3-year thing, we'll give you this cost based on your age. And it stepped up as you got a little bit older. A lot of people complain, the older people complain saying, why do they get this? But my position back was, you got 120 members and you pay, in order to keep the course going, you're going to pay 3 times what you pay today. When these guys join, the tournaments are full. You're creating fun in the atmosphere in the clubhouse and in the pro shop and downstairs in the downstairs, bar area and stuff. So it became a lot of fun and it worked, so
Yeah.
and then when the 3-year deal was up, the attrition was there a little bit, but the guys that really fell in love with the game and that wanted to play now would pay a little bit more on the next age category, and they stayed. So
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah. I think that's actually a good thing there because, like I said, we tend to overlook it. I'm kind of in the statistics and demographics business as part of my business, and you look at that and you say, hey, wait, we had all this influx 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, come back to the game or start in the game. And yet we're still talking about, getting 8, 10, 12, 15-year-olds involved, which is good. That's true. And you need a feeder system like that, an entry level system into any sport.
Yep.
But these other folks, like we said, they're getting started in the serious part of their life, their working years and all that. And they're going to be making money, maybe making more money as they go along. Then, you know, let's give them some love too. Is the way.
It's also that age group is also a great, which is one of the things that I spoke about when we introduced this to the membership, is that they're also a great networking group. So you have girlfriends or boyfriends, husbands, or whatever the case, husbands or wives, whatever the case may is, or whoever joined. They became part of it, and now you meet people, and we've had a lot of people that at our course, hey, I need a dentist, or I need an attorney, or I need somebody to cut my grass, or I need this or that.
Yeah.
And that networking thing came out, and business grew from that as well. And it becomes kind of a little friendship kind of thing where people are helping each other out as well. And like I say, the tournaments are full. It brings more money in for the revenue for the club. So you give them a discount, you fill it up a little bit, and they're going to be the ones that you want to stay when they're 40, 50, 60 years old, like we are today. So
Yeah.
it worked. It was a trial thing, and it worked. I could say some attrition, but the 10% maybe left, and those 10% weren't going to be there anyway. So it was a nice program that kind of built up the membership of the club.
Okay, last question, Dean, and this is kind of a fun one. And you talked
Okay.
about this a little earlier, a part of it. What would your last meal be if you were on death row?
Oh boy. I guess it really wouldn't matter, but I would probably get something that would take me as long as I could to eat. So it couldn't be anything hot. you know.
Yeah.
Uh, Geez, maybe some sushi that would last. We go to this place around here that's got outstanding sushi, and I love sushi, and so I would probably maybe pick something like that I could continue to eat as long as I wanted to and as slow as I wanted to, and never say I was finished.
Yeah, well, you don't have to at that point, you don't have to count calories either.
Nope. And you
No.
don't have to say you're full. Even if you have sashimi or some of the other things without all the rice, you can make that last a long time.
Yeah, you could. Dean Snell, CEO of Snell Golf. Go to snellgolf.com. I don't know why I'm so tongue-tied at that today. Anyway, Dean, it's always a pleasure, and you're welcome back anytime, my friend.
All right, Jeff. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. We're going to get out of here. Thank you for listening to After Hours. And you can go back on the platforms and listen to the old shows if you haven't. So for Dean Snell, I'm JT. Go out, play some golf, have some fun, and be kind, everybody. Take care.